Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. They always said the desert at night was quiet, but I don't think you understand that word until you've stood out there at 2 in the morning, in the middle of Groom Lake's dry bed, with nothing but the wind and the hum of your own truck's engine. My job wasn't glamorous. People think contractors at Area 51 see aliens every day, little gray guys waving from hangars. Truth is, most of us just sat in white pickups with spotlights, making sure no dumbass tourist tried to sneak past the signs. Deadly force authorized isn't just for show. That night felt no different at first. Stars overhead like someone spilled salt on black glass. The moon was low. My partner, Macklin, was snoring in the passenger seat, his vest digging into his chin. I was halfway through a bad cup of coffee when the first alarm went off. Not from the perimeter, not from any of our tripwires or radar towers. It came from inside. A low mechanical klaxon rolled across the desert, bouncing off the mountains. The radio on the dash snapped alive before I even touched it. All Red 3 units, divert to S4 access point immediately. Repeat, all Red 3 units, S4 access. I remember staring at Macklin, who was wide awake now. "Since when do they call us to S4? He muttered. We weren't even supposed to say those words out loud. S4 was whispered about, not on the regular patrol grid. Buried into the side of Papoose Mountain, miles from where the tourists pointed their cameras. Hell, most contractors thought it was a myth. But the voice on the radio didn't sound like myth. It sounded scared. We drove fast, past the hangars where they parked the black triangles, past the floodlit runways that stretched longer than some small towns, past checkpoints where guards usually checked badges 3 times. That night, they waved us through without a word. When we reached the mountain, the blast doors were already open. That's when my stomach dropped. They never left those doors open, not even during drills. Inside, the air smelled wrong, metallic, sharp, like ozone after lightning. The fluorescent lights flickered, buzzing in the stillness. No one met us at the entry bay, just a projector left running in an empty briefing room. Reel clicking as it looped the same few minutes of grainy black and white footage. Soldiers in 1960s uniforms firing rifles into a pit full of bodies. The bodies got up again. No sound, just the image, over and over. Macklin reached for the machine like he was going to turn it off. I grabbed his wrist. "Don't," I whispered. I didn't even know why. It just felt like watching it was safer than touching it. We pushed deeper. Doors that normally needed retina scans were propped with folding chairs. Some flickered green, others stayed red, alarms chirping like wounded birds. A guard's helmet sat abandoned in the corner. No guard inside it. By the time we hit level 2, we saw the first signs. Shattered cryo-pods, frost still hissing off them, puddles of cloudy liquid spreading across the tiles. The glass cracked outward like something had forced its way out, and the footprints, bare, human, dozens of them, leading away from the pods, streaked with condensation that steamed in the recycled air. We followed. I don't know why. Maybe because we thought that's what we were supposed to do. That's what security does. Follow the trail, close the breach. But the trail didn't end in a hallway or a locked door. It ended at an elevator, smeared with a handprint so red it looked fresh. The doors were closing as we arrived. We caught a glimpse inside. Something pale. Not just pale, white, almost luminous under the fluorescence. Human shape, but wrong. Its head cocked too far to one side, watching us with eyes like clouded glass. Then the doors sealed. The elevator dropped. Macklin looked at me, mouth opening and closing like a fish. That's when the second alarm started, deeper this time, shaking the walls, and I realized we hadn't stumbled into a drill. We'd stumbled into something they'd buried too deep to ever let out. The elevator left without us, but the alarms made sure we weren't going anywhere. Macklin and I pushed deeper down the stairwell. Each landing hummed like a beehive, vents rattling, power dipping, the emergency lighting strobing red. Somewhere beneath, a generator whined, off-kilter, like a dying animal. Level 3 smelled different. Not just chemical, but sour, organic. A place meant to stay sealed. The walls here weren't plain concrete. They were paneled in brushed steel, doors stenciled with Cyrillic lettering I didn't recognize, and faded U.S. Air Force decals beside them. "Since when do we share labs with the Russians?" Macklin whispered. I didn't answer. One door was cracked open. Inside, stainless steel tables, cold storage units humming. At least 24 bodies zipped into clear sheeting. Not American. Their uniforms were old Soviet, Red Army insignia still stitched to the sleeves. Some looked like pilots, others like regular grunts, and all of them were tagged with U.S. barcodes. That was the first time my gut turned. Not the strangeness of the Soviets being here, but the fact their skin didn't look dead enough. Gray, yes. Cold, yes. But supple, like they'd just been laid out. We didn't linger. The next room was worse. Cages, at least 10 of them. Dogs, or what used to be dogs. Military shepherds, muzzled, shaking, ribs showing. Their eyes were milk white. When they saw us, they hurled themselves at the bars so hard the steel groaned. Their bodies slammed again and again until blood sprayed from their snouts. Macklin swore under his breath. "Why the hell keep 'em like this?" I said, "Don't look at 'em," but I couldn't stop either. Past that was an autopsy suite. On the table lay a corpse that looked human at first glance, but its chest was split open, ribs peeled back. Instead of organs, there were growths, pale fungal masses veined with something that pulsed faintly under the blacklight strips. Each time the power flickered, I swore the rhythm sped up. I touched Macklin's arm. "Let's go." Now. That's when his radio crackled. At first I thought it was command, but it wasn't a voice giving orders. It was voices whispering all at once. Male, female, English, Russian. something that didn't sound like any language I knew. My spine went ice cold. Macklin shook the unit. Control, say again. The voices hissed back, overlapping, then cutting to a scream so loud he dropped it. The scream kept playing even after it hit the floor. We should have run. God, I wish we had. Instead, we pushed further, because that's what security does. Stupid bastards that we were. Halfway down the stairwell, we found it. One of the specimens. He looked like a man once, but his skull was a roadmap of scars, old surgical tracks. His eyes were clouded, one milky white, the other twitching in its socket like it was tracking us without moving the head. His mouth sagged open, lips gray, jaw wrong. He came at us in silence, faster than he had any right to. I raised my rifle, fired point blank into his chest. He didn't slow. Macklin hit him with a burst that took half his shoulder off, still didn't drop him. He slammed me into the wall so hard my helmet cracked the paneling. His breath smelled like freezer burn and blood. I don't know what made me do it, but I jammed my sidearm up under his chin and pulled the trigger. That did it. His body folded, legs twitching like a puppet cut from strings. Silence fell, except my own ragged breathing. Macklin looked at me, pale as chalk. What the fuck was that? I wanted to answer. I wanted to say the words "not human" or "experiment gone wrong," but the truth hit me like a punch. That thing was human. It had been human, and somebody had kept it here anyway. We stood in that stairwell, ears ringing, the stink of powder and rot hanging thick, when the PA above us finally crackled to life. All units hold your ground. Containment breach level 3. Do not allow specimens to reach the surface. Hold the stairwell, they said. We were already the last ones holding anything. We didn't hold the stairwell. Not because we broke, because the stairwell itself gave way. Alarms tripped a bulkhead, and the steel door above us slammed down, sealing level 3 like a tomb. Whatever was still moving down there stayed put, for now. Command rerouted us. Surface hangars. Secure experimental assets. Their voices were clipped, rushed, too steady for what we'd seen, like they were reading off a script. Macklin muttered, "Assets, not people." We followed the signs up, climbing through access shafts until the air shifted again. Dry, cooler, tinged with jet fuel. A final hatch blew open, and we staggered into one of the cavern hangars carved under Groom Mountain. Even after all I'd seen, I stopped in my tracks. You've seen the pictures online. The grainy triangles and saucers conspiracy nuts pass around. Those are toys compared to what was sitting in that chamber. Black triangles, yes, smooth as obsidian, edges so sharp the air shimmered around them. Smaller drones shaped like beetles, their wings folded tight but humming faintly, like they were alive. And at the far end, something bigger, something impossible. A craft shaped like a teardrop, but its skin wasn't metal. It rippled like liquid mercury under the lights, shifting with every step I took, like it was aware of us. "Jesus Christ," Macklin whispered. This isn't ours." Before I could answer, a sound cut him off. A shriek that didn't belong in a hangar. It came from above. Something launched out of the catwalks, slamming into the floor between us and the aircraft. At first, I thought it was a person in a suit, orange fabric, cracked visor. But the thing inside wasn't human anymore. It was smaller. A chimpanzee, one of the old pressure test animals they'd launched decades ago. Except this one's suit was torn, its jaw half ripped away, and it was still moving. It lunged. Macklin emptied half a mag into it, bullets sparking off the floor. It kept coming, dragging itself on forearms, shrieking through the broken helmet glass until I stomped down on its head hard enough to split the visor in two. The shrieking didn't stop immediately. It echoed. And then the infected poured in. Not just the pale, scarred men from below, but new ones. Techs in modern coveralls, faces bloodied, eyes blind white. One had a clipboard still clutched in his hand as he sprinted toward us, pen stabbing like a knife. Another was in a radiation hood, jawbone gone, tongue flopping uselessly as it moaned. We fell back toward the control booth overlooking the chamber. Glass walls, blinking consoles. Macklin sealed the door while I raised my rifle, firing into the tide as they smashed against the reinforced glass. The room's monitors flickered on their own. Not cameras, files, reports, footage from other sites. I recognized places I'd never been but had only read about in briefings. Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, Bangor, Maine, Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Every clip showed the same thing: outbreaks, bodies in containment, soldiers overwhelmed, black helicopters leaving fire behind. Area 51 wasn't the origin, it was the dumping ground. The infected hit the glass so hard the booth rattled. One slid down, leaving a smear of red. That's when I noticed his uniform. Not a lab coat, not an old relic. A modern Air Force flight suit. U.S. flag on the shoulder. Dog tags clinking against the glass. I felt my stomach twist. "They're not all Cold War," I said. Macklin looked at me, pale. "What do you mean?" "They're recent. They're still bringing them here." The glass spiderwebbed. Alarms screamed overhead. The big teardrop craft in the hangar rippled like it was reacting to the chaos, its surface forming strange fractal patterns I couldn't look at too long without my eyes burning. Then the door behind us buckled. We didn't wait. We fought our way through the opposite side, down a catwalk, rounds echoing, boots slipping on blood. Macklin fired until his mag clicked dry, screaming curses. I dragged him through as the infected poured into the booth behind us. We burst out into the night air. The desert spread wide and black, floodlights cutting swaths of pale sand. Helicopters were lifting off, rotors chopping the silence, spotlights stabbing downward where figures ran, some human, some not anymore. And in the distance, past the perimeter, I thought I saw something worse, a column of infected soldiers, moving not like a mob, but in formation, step for step, heads tilted the same way, marching straight for the fence. Macklin gasped, "What the hell is—" I didn't answer, because I didn't want to say the word organized. The desert was on fire. Floodlights swept across Groom Lake's dry bed, catching twisted shapes stumbling in the sand. Sirens wailed from every direction, layered on top of each other until it didn't sound like alarms anymore. It sounded like screaming. Macklin and I made it as far as the outer fence before we realized there was no perimeter anymore. The fence was down, torn flat, posts bent outward as if something had rammed through from the inside. A convoy of Humvees was burning halfway to the access road. Tires melted into black puddles. The desert air reeked of jet fuel and charred meat. Above us, helicopters clawed into the sky, big black Chinooks and sleek birds I didn't recognize, blades thundering, carrying cargo slings loaded with cages. Shapes rattled inside those cages, human shapes, some screaming, some silent. One of the pilots was already infected. I saw his head jerk back and forth behind the glass, mouth opening and closing as his hands still worked the controls. The bird tilted midair, cargo spilling, cages crashing into the sand. The things inside burst out on impact, sprinting into the floodlight's edge. We opened fire, not to win, just to slow them. And then we saw them, the column, dozens of infected soldiers marching in eerie unison, rifles still slung across their backs, boots hitting the sand in perfect cadence. No sound but the crunch of gravel underfoot, their eyes all the same dead white, their faces blank, marching like they remembered orders long after death. "Jesus Christ," Macklin whispered. "They're drilling." The floodlights flickered. For a heartbeat, everything went dark, and that's when I saw them. Not the infected, not the soldiers. Something else, figures standing on the ridge beyond the lake. Tall, thin, too far to make out details. Not moving, just watching. When the light snapped back, the ridge was empty. I think that's the part that broke me. Not the infected screaming, not the gunfire, not the helicopters abandoning us. The watchers, whoever they were, whatever they were. We fought until we couldn't. Macklin went down, buying me time. A burst from his M4 tearing 3 of them apart before they swallowed him whole. His scream cut short like a switch flipped. I ran, across the sand, through smoke and shell casings, past bodies in Air Force blues and contractor grays, past one of the black triangles lifting off, its engines silent, its skin shimmering like liquid night. I swear, I saw shapes moving inside its cockpit, not pilots, not human. By dawn, I was the only one left moving on the lake bed, my rifle empty, my boots caked with blood that wasn't all mine. Behind me, Groom Lake burned. Hangars collapsed. Sirens went silent one by one. The column of soldiers kept marching long after the fence was gone, vanishing into the desert heat. I didn't try to stop them. I just walked. And here's the part I can't shake, the part that wakes me up every time I close my eyes. They'll bury this. They'll say it never happened. They'll tell you Area 51 is about aliens, about saucers and lights in the sky. But I was there. I saw what we were keeping. I saw it walk out into the world. And I swear to God, the world was never just ours.